Hello, Year 8. This is your first lesson for this third week of online learning. And I would like you right now to trace a line from the previous lesson and write down the date in French on the top right corner, underline it with a ruler, and copy the title, Où es-tu allé? Où es-tu allé? Meaning, where did you go? So have a think about why there's an extra E at the end of allé. We'll go through it in the lesson. Okay. Now I would like you to copy these 4 sentences and to translate them. So I say they out loud for you to know how you normally pronounce it. First one. Normalement, je me réveille à 7 heures. Second sentence. D'habitude, je m'habille à 7h30. Number 3. Je n'aime pas me coucher après 11 heures. Number 4. J'adore manger des céréales pour le petit déjeuner. And as a challenge, hier, je me suis levée à 6h moins 10. So please write down these 4 sentences and translate them into English in your book. You can pause the video for now. Okay, so please take a red pen to correct your work. First one is normally I wake up at 7 o'clock. Second sentence, usually I get dressed at 7:30. Number 3, I don't like to go to bed after 11 o'clock. Number 4, I love to eat cereal for breakfast. And for the challenge, have a think if you haven't done the challenge, which tense could this be? Je me suis levée. So we have a reflexive verb with the pronoun me. We have être, and here we have something else, okay? So this is lever. You can see this is a past participle because we have an E acute, okay? And this is the perfect tense, meaning yesterday I woke up at 10 to 6. Okay, you can pause the video to finish correcting your work. All right. So for this week, we are looking at revising vocabulary and activities. We're doing some recap on how to use the perfect tense with both auxiliary verb avoir and être. So I would like you now to repeat after me the vocabulary for now. So, arriver au collège. Aller au collège en bus. Aller au collège à pied. Partir de la maison. Faire du shopping. Aller au club de foot. Aller en ville. Rentrer à la maison. Aller au cinéma. After you practice your pronunciation, have a think about matching these phrases with the images. You can pause the video for now. Just okay. So after you had a go at matching them up, this is the correction. So I would like you to copy the vocabulary and its translation. You can pause the video to copy this vocabulary. Okay, so the next activity I would like you to do is a listening activity. So I will be telling you the text, and you need to put these images in the correct order. So first one, I'm going to say one of these 6 images, and you need to write down the correct letter next to it. So as an example, I'm going to give you the first one, which is B. I will say number 1, je suis partie de la maison à 7h30. Number 1, je suis partie de la maison à 7h30. And the answer will be for you writing number 1 and next to it the correct letter, which is B. Okay, so I'm going to read out the rest, and you need to write down from 1 to 6, well actually now from 2 to 6, the correct letter that I'm mentioning, which are on this slide. Okay. So, number 2, je suis arrivé au collège à 8h20. I repeat. Number 2, je suis arrivé au collège à 8h20. Number 3, je suis arrivé au collège à 8h moins 10. Number 3, je suis arrivé au collège à 8h moins 10. Number 4, je suis allé au collège à pied. I repeat. Number 4, je suis allé au collège à pied. Number 5, je suis parti de la maison à 8h. Number 5, I repeat. Je suis parti de la maison à 8h. And finally, number 6, je suis allé au collège en bus. I repeat, number 6, je suis allé au collège en bus. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you have all your answers. These are the answers that you were supposed to get. 1B, 2E, 3F, 4C, 5A, and 6D. Okay. Je suis parti de la maison. I'm going to translate from A to F. Is I left home at 8 o'clock. B, je suis parti de la maison à 7h30. I left home at 7:30. C, je suis allé au collège à pied. I went to school on foot. D, je suis allé au collège en bus. I went to school by bus. E, je suis arrivé au collège à 8h20 is I arrived at school at 8:20. And F, je suis arrivé au collège à 8h moins 10 is I arrived at school at 10 to 8. Okay, so now I would like to recap the perfect tense with you. Okay, so the perfect tense is a past tense that's describing an action that's specific and completed. Okay, and we've seen that. So, how to form it? Hopefully by now you remember that you have the subject pronoun. Most of the time you have the auxiliary verb avoir, conjugated in present tense. Sometimes you use être, plus the past participle. Okay. I would like you now to have a little bit of recap on être and avoir. Without knowing these verbs, how to conjugate these verbs, you cannot form the perfect tense. So it's very important that you know these two off by heart by now. Okay, so please pause the video, conjugate être and avoir. Okay, so hopefully you did this and you had the answers there. Je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont ou elles sont. J'ai, tu as, il, elle, on a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. Okay. Please correct in red, write yourself a target if you need to revise any of these verbs. Okay, so we know how to use the auxiliary verb, which is être ou avoir. Now, how to form the past participle, the second part at the end. For ER verbs, step 1, you need to find the infinitive. Example, manger. Step 2, remove the last two letters ER to get the stem. And then you add E acute, gives us manger. So I ate will be j'ai mangé. IR verbs, you need to find the infinitives and then remove the R, giving you fini, for example. I finished, j'ai fini. And for RE verbs, find the infinitive, for example, vendre, then remove RE, the last two letters, and then you add a U, it gives you vendu. So I sold, j'ai vendu. Okay. Now have a look at these three verbs. Pause the video and think, what do they have in common? Now have a look at this added verb. I've added another verb there. Can you tell me, can you tell yourself what they have in common? What do they have in common? Okay, they are, as you can tell, they are Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp verbs for the first three. The last one, if you recall, is the reflexive verb that we saw last week, se coucher, okay, which has a reflexive pronoun in front of the verb. And all of these verbs, Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp and reflexive verb, they use être as the auxiliary verb before the past participle. Okay? So to say I left, je suis parti. To say I came back, je suis rentré. I went, je suis allé. And I went to bed, je me suis couché. So you need to use être for all of these, Van der Tramp and reflexive verb. Okay? So some verbs use être like we talked about, okay, and they need to be learned off by heart. Okay, like I said, they call Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp verbs. And I would like you to copy them now. So first, you add your subject pronoun. Then you need être. Donc, je suis, tu es, il, elle, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils, elles sont. And afterwards, you need the past participle. Okay. So this is now what you should have. So this is your full list of Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp. And next to them, you can see the past participle. So you can see the one that have an asterisk next to them are irregular. So be careful. These need to be known of by heart as well. So please pause the video and write down all the Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp verbs that need to be known of by heart. Okay. So please copy this rule using être as the auxiliary verb for Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp and reflexive verbs. So what happens when we have être as an auxiliary verb? That's right, the past participle must agree, okay? Whereas when we have avoir, the past participle never changes. So j'ai mangé, tu as mangé, elle a mangé does not change. Manger will stay the same. When we use être, it's got to agree. So when we have il est parti, he left. Because partir, we remove the R, we have the past participle. Elle est partie, we need to add an E to the end of the past participle because it's feminine. She left. Ils sont partis, group of masculine. So ils sont partis, we add an S because it's more than one, that's the mark of the plural. Okay, they left. Elles sont parties, that's a group of girls only. Sont parties, we need to add a E to mark the feminine and an S because it's more than one. Same thing happens for the reflexive verbs. Il s'est réveillé, he woke up. We don't add anything because il is masculine, singular. Elle s'est réveillée, we add an extra E. Ils se sont réveillés, we have an S here, they woke up. Elles se sont réveillées, they woke up, just group of girls, we need to add an E and an S. There's an exception to this rule. That is when a body part is mentioned after the reflexive past participle. So let me demonstrate. Elle s'est brossé les dents. Normally, if it were not a reflexive verb, you would add an extra E because it's feminine. But because we have teeth at the end, les dents, we don't add anything. So this is the exception to the rule. Please pause this video and copy this slide. So I want it to be really clear for you when the past participle agrees and how it agrees, and then the exception, of course. So pause this video now. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of practice. Please write down these sentences and translate them into French. There are two little asterisks for the sentence number 2 and sentence number 4, because be careful for reflexive verbs or Van der Tram verbs. Don't forget the reflexive pronoun there. Okay? So pause this video, copy and translate these 4 sentences, please. Thank you. Okay. I left the house at 8 o'clock. The correction, please use a red pen for the correction. Je suis partie de la maison à 8 heures. Extra E in brackets if the person is feminine, of course. I woke up at 7 o'clock. Je me suis réveillée à 7 heures. Again, the E in brackets, depending if the person talking is female or male. You, singular, arrived at school at 8:15. Tu es arrivé à 8h15. Same rule with the E in brackets. And she went to bed at 10 o'clock. This time we have no choice because we know she is feminine. Elle s'est couchée with an extra E à 10 heures. Please pause the video to make sure you've got the correct correction in red in your book. Okay, so now I would like you to do a gap fill exercise. Okay, please copy this text, write down gap fill exercise before, then copy this text, and you've got like the words as an option in red at the bottom of the slides. Okay, so copy this text and fill the gaps with the words that are in red at the bottom of the slide. Pause the video for that. Okay, so after you're done, please take a red pen and correct your work. Hier, je me suis réveillée à 7h moins le quart et je me suis levée à 7h. Puis, je me suis douchée. Après, j'ai pris mon petit déjeuner. J'ai mangé des céréales et une pomme. C'était très bon. Ensuite, je suis partie de la maison et je suis arrivée à l'école à 8h. Après l'école, je suis rentrée à la maison et j'ai fait mes devoirs. C'était ennuyeux. Je me suis couchée à 9h car j'étais fatiguée. Okay. So please pause the video to make sure that you've got the right correction. In red, please. Okay. So finally, I would like you to write 2 things that you've learned today during this lesson and write 1 thing that you need to practice. Okay. As usual, please upload a picture of your work via the assignment. And I hope that you found the lesson clear and useful. So thank you very much for your work.